We put this together after daily and much conversation here amongst the management team in the days leading up to today, because we really wanted to hear from our clients. We wanted to hear how we can better represent you. You know, we are representatives. We represent you. And how can we best represent you out there in the world? How can we best amplify your voice? How can we best address the concerns that you have so that you go into each job, each audition, each situation, rehearsal, whatever it is, set up to win and set up to feel comfortable and knowing that you are safe and you are protected and that you have a champion behind you. Like many people, when this, over the last couple of weeks, I think every one of us has examined our everyday interactions, our day-to-day behaviors, the conversations that we have had in the past and the present. And we've had it with many of you that are on the line today. We've had it internally. And we felt the only way to expand the conversation was to bring it to you. So many of these questions that we have are for you, the clients, and we want to hear from you. We also want to hear from you to hear your concerns and how we can be better allies for you in this battle. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for hearing us. I thank you for letting us be here to listen. And I will briefly turn it over to my partner, Alicia Ruskin, before we turn it over to our host.
Welcome, 358 participants at this point. It's amazing. So grateful that you've all joined us. Mark and I have been agents for about the same amount of time. I have had the luck to be with this agency for my whole career. So who are we? There are some of you on this call that have been with this agency for 25 and 30 years. There are some of you on this call who have just joined us. So just to kind of put it in context, we were founded in 1957. And over the years, I think one of the hallmarks of the agency has been a commitment to serving the underserved performers in entertainment, starting with one of the first dance departments, started in the 80s, to present day representing stunt performers, very proactive in that area, also with the union. And I think our jewel in the crown, headed by Gail Williamson, our Performers with Disabilities Department, which we call our Diversity Department. And that department is very special to us, and the doors that have opened and the inroads that have been made have really, we've been very proud of that, and we continue to do that. And that is who we aim to be, and our commitment to being a voice, and as Mark said, to amplify the voices of people who have typically found obstacles to being the full performers that they deserve to be. So again, that is our commitment in this conversation, to walk away with it with more knowledge, more commitment, and a clearer path to moving forward and being your best representatives. I'm going to throw out a couple of statistics that I think would be germane to this conversation in terms of the diversity of our staff and the diversity of our roster. This is very broad and general, certainly can contact us for more specifics, but in our agency, we have 25% of our staff. We are persons of color, Black, Latinx, Asian, Indigenous, mixed. And we have, I think, 7 departments over 2 coasts. And we asked our head of those departments to do a data dive for diversity within the departments. And very generally, 1/3 of the roster are people of color, and Black performers are 20% of the roster. So that is, we wanted to share that with you going into this, and then I will turn it back over to Mark.
I appreciate that. I'm now just going to turn over the moderator so we can dive in. Reggie Davis is our moderator today. Reggie has been a client of the agency for the last 7 years and was a client of mine previously at another agency. And he is working across all different departments, and that's why I thought it was a good person to kind of moderate this talk. So with further ado, Reggie Davis.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to also thank all of you for being here, taking the time to have this discussion. And really, that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a dialogue. What we hope to do today is address a lot of these issues. I'm not sure that we're going to fix anything today, but we are definitely going to address all the concerns that people are having in terms of work, in terms of treatment by representatives. So at some point, we want to hear stories about what's going on with you as a performer out in the world. What have you encountered? What did it feel like to encounter it? And what are your hopes in terms of the ideal work conditions, the ideal conditions with your agents? So I think I'll start off with a question for Mark. So let's say a performer encounters some sort of discrimination, some sort of racial discrimination, either at an open call, open equity call, on set, during a casting session, even with their representative. So what's their first step? Who should they call? Who should they contact?
What has been really surprising to me in a lot of my conversations with our clients has been the amount of stories I have started to hear about these kind of situations that we never heard about before. And that I have to look at the power dynamic of our relationship and everything else, but we would hope that anybody would come to us with any problem and not be afraid of that conversation. And I think that's kind of been one of the most surprising things to me. It has been the number of people who said, well, I didn't know how you would react. I didn't know what that was going to mean. We love performers. We love actors. We are here to represent you. If we have ever given anybody the impression to be afraid of us, or that sharing your honesty and what is happening to you in the world, it is going to affect our relationship in a negative way, we just want you to know that's wrong. And I haven't spoken about this to anybody that's on this screen necessarily. I just know it to be true of the people who work for me. But anytime, we hope we're your first call. You have a union, you have a rep, you have a equity deputy, you have a structural means in whatever job you're working on to deal with it. But we also would hope you would pick up the phone and call us, because we do want to hear about it and we do want to champion it. So that's the simple answer.
Mm-hmm. Well, in keeping with that, I'd like to open it up to the clients, and I'd like to hear some experiences that people have had. What are some of the things that you've encountered that were racially insensitive, the things that you've actually encountered in the workplace? One of the things that I was looking through questions that were emailed, and we did receive questions and comments from clients. And I guess we'll just start with something that we talked about, that I heard about in terms of storyboards for commercials. That storyboards often include Caucasians depicted in the scenes in the storyboard. And so that can sometimes make performers believe that the client or the director or the production company is leaning toward using Caucasian talent. So is there a way that we can address maybe opening up the storyboarding process to be more inclusive? Or is that a conversation we can start having?
I also want to jump in to help our stage manager today, Sam, if you would either physically wave your hand. We have 10 pages of faces.
Mhm.
Wave your hand so we can find you and unmute you.
Sure.
Oh, that makes sense. We didn't actually think about that as actually finding the person. But I think you can do it from the participant bar, Sam, can't you?
Yes, I'll still have to scroll through the names, but I'll find y'all one way or another.
Until she finds the first person. Reggie, again, we addressed that this morning in a meeting we had because Alicia sits on the board of the ATA and in fact is part of that commercial committee. And I think that we can as an agency shout and make noise about it, but I think to come at it from a position from something like an organization like the ATA that can reach out to the guilds and kind of push that agenda, I think that would be great.
Yeah. But in terms of submissions, talk to me a little bit about KMR's position on submissions for non-traditional casting, for casting in general.
Yeah. I have always been a firm believer and have said anybody who's of color who's ever interviewed with me, whether I represent them or not, I've always said if you look around and you're the only face of color in the room, then hopefully your agent is doing a good job. Your agent is doing a good thing. Your agent is doing what they should be doing. And I certainly think that that's what's been instilled at KMR. I think we all have stories that we can tell of pushing an actor of color for a role that wasn't meant for an actor, that wasn't being cast for an actor of color, or where casting was only seeing Caucasian actors, and our suggestion would be, what about so-and-so? That's an active pitch, but I certainly know that if I were to open up the submissions from Breakdown Services, unless it is very particular to the story they are telling that says this has to be this, we generally do submit across the board, and that's something we've all been doing. And it's kind of one of the reasons when this all started that I was like, well, we do that. And then I had to look at myself and say, well, yeah, we do that, but are we doing it the best way we can? Are we doing it to the greatest effect? Are we making sure on every job that those people, that all of our clients are being pushed, or not just, well, a couple times came in and then we didn't do it, but we feel good about ourselves because we submitted all ethnicities. And we have to avoid that complacency as representatives.
Sure.
We have to wake up every day and work hard and remember to do our job the best that we can do our job. And that includes representing all of our clients equally to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
If I can, Mark, just really quick, where some feedback has been really useful to me, in a commercial breakdown, we're seeing more mixed race families. And one of our clients pointed out to me that as a Black man, he is not often asked to be the father. He is seeing white men and women of color, but not so many Black men and white women. That was something that was not, so that then I, as an advocate, can say to the casting director, are you seeing everybody for everything? And let me pitch in this way.
We have a comment from Sarah Hollis. So Sarah, please share.
Hi, okay, I'll lower my hand too. Can everybody hear me? I'm wearing earpods, so okay, great, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had situations in terms of ethnically things that have happened. I had a situation I wanted to talk about, and then also just like some of the problems that I encounter. I'm mixed race, and I think that sometimes categorically what happens to me is I often feel a little bit left out of the diversity conversation, because either I hear that I'm not street enough or urban enough for a particular role, I'm not reading Black. I'm going to put those in quotation marks. And I also hear, you know, I normally get called in for things that are ethnically either ambiguous or open ethnicity casting. But it's really difficult when I don't see my story even being portrayed on TV and film screens. You know, I mean, there's more conversation of mixed race family, but that's only, I would say, like within the last couple of years. But I had a situation actually, not this past winter, but the winter before, in which a director that I was working for, and I was working on a very racially charged show anyway. I was working on an Octoroon by Brendan Jacobs Jenkins, and my director said something about the fact that I had been talking a lot, and he said that must be my Jewish side, and said it to other actors who felt not empowered at all, didn't know what to say. It was their director. And when I confronted the director about it, you know, he said I was calling him a racist and a bigot, which I wasn't. I was just saying that that comment was racially insensitive. I felt like KMR did a good job of checking in to see what I wanted to do. I was able to call my agent at the time and talk to her about what happened, and she really left it in my hands of if I wanted to progress, if I wanted to go on, if I wanted to report it. I guess the difficulty is, like, I didn't know what to do. You know, I had never, it's not that I wouldn't want to report it, it's just, what do? Do you pull out of the show at that point? You know, I don't always know exactly what to do. And as a performer, sometimes you just feel lucky to get the job, you know? So
Right.
you know, I don't know exactly even, although it felt empowering to have the choice presented, like, what next do you want to do with this? To be honest, didn't know. You know, my answer was, I don't know what to do now.
And there can be a lot of undue pressure putting it in the hands of the performer. If it's strictly in the hands of the performer, that's a lot to carry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was intentional at all. It's, you know, but it's just, you know, sometimes when I think those situations, and I've had different ones encounter different ones throughout the years, like, can you make her more urban? Or like, oh, I didn't know that you were Black before you came in to see me for an audition. You know what I mean? Like things like that
Sure.
can happen. I think the difficulty is, and what's really lovely about this conversation is thinking about, like, where do we go from here? What do we do with this if and when a situation arises?
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate you sharing that. There's also a comment from Malik. Can we get Malik Elamine? Malik, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Hey, how are you?
Thanks. So first I'd like to say that I'm excited that we're having this conversation. I'm excited to be a part of the KMR family. So thrilled to have found Gail and for Gail help to discover me. So I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we're having this conversation. I think, actually, I just realized you probably weren't hearing me very closely.
There we go.
Is that a little better then?
That's much better. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm part of the diversity department. So I've been Black my whole life, but I've been deaf since about 2010, or rather, I'll turn sideways. I got my cochlear implant at that time.
Awesome.
So I come to this from a couple of different perspectives, but I feel it's really important for us to acknowledge why we're having this conversation in the first place. Why we're gathered here today. I think we're having this conversation because of what's happened in this country, because of an outgrowth of what's happened when George Floyd was killed, and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and many others. That there's something different happening right now in our larger society. For Black people, the awareness of the existence of racism and systemic racism is something that we've dealt with and managed our entire lives. There appears to be an acknowledgement and an understanding in the broader society that this is a real thing, and that it affects people on a daily basis, that it affects our ability to live, it affects our ability to breathe, it affects our ability to create art, It affects our ability to provide for ourselves and our families. So this is something that I think is unique in this time, is that there seems to be a broader acknowledgement and recognition that this is a real thing.
Certainly.
So I don't have a story about racism somewhere in my career to share today, because from my experience, that's just how I've walked through life, dealing with it, managing it, and trying to get to the next thing. But what I do want to say in terms of response to some of the things we talked about, you know, who KMR is and what KMR does, an acknowledgement and an understanding that in addition to the wonderful work that KMR does, KMR is still a part of that system of racism as well. And I think an acknowledgement and an understanding of that is vital to serving your clients as you move forward. To acknowledge that, to say it's not just about what can we do to help you with those other people over there. The first question is, what can we do here to deal with our role, the role that we play in this system?
Sure.
And that role not necessarily conscious, not intentional, but it happens, and it's part of our reality. So earlier we talked about the staff and the percentage of staff who are people of color. I think without me knowing the details of that, my question about the staff is, so how many of those staff members are people of color who are senior staff, who are in leadership positions in the decision-making situations? And those are the kinds of questions when we talk about an organization that wants to be better and do better. We have to look at how we're structured. We have to look at how we're led. We have to look at how decisions are made and who's at the table and who has a voice, who has influence at that table when decisions are made.
Sure.
That creates the direction, and it also affects the culture of the organization. So I'm going to stop now, but that's just the piece I wanted to share with the team. And I'll say one last time, I am happy to be on the team. So
and we're happy to have you on the team. And going through what you said, we are as complicit as anybody else in the system. You asked why now? Well, why now? Because now it's in the zeitgeist. It is happening, and finally we've been slapped into reality to know this is going on, and we can't just go on this parallel path, not paying attention to it, to just move along. Sarah's example is actually a really good example. What do you want to do, Sarah? What do you want us? Do you want us to pursue it? Do you not? Instead of saying, that's outrageous, Sarah, you shouldn't be treated that way. I still have to weigh the pros and cons of what Sarah wants to do because she's the captain of the ship. But I can certainly express my feeling and my opinion in a stronger way and not lay it on Sarah. As far as the your other question, in senior management, there's actually no faces of color. We're a very small company, and that's no excuse. And it is something that we are in active conversations about, because I agree with you 100%, Malik, that it has to be a part of the bigger culture, and it has to be something that is just part of our everyday. And that is a pledge that I can make to the people on this call, that it is a constant conversation here and will continue to be a constant conversation here. And those steps will be made to fix the issues I can fix within my organization. I will address.
Excellent. We have a comment from Delissa, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but. We get Delissa up, please.
Yeah. No, you said it perfectly. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all well and safe in navigating this pandemic.
Thank you.
And
You too.
so much, KMR, and you for pulling this together and hosting this conversation. And this conversation is 401 years old. And I appreciate it coming, having this. However, you know what to do. You know how to be treated as a human being, that we are valued. And the trauma that happens within the industry, it's the trauma to our self-esteem, our bodies, our way of working. And it's not only, it's for all BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, LGBTIQ, people with disabilities, seniors, and how we're viewed and our value. And that's also monetary and socially. So, and this is a powerful time to shift the narrative and how we, I can say, okay, you can do this, or I can ask you to do this and give you a checklist, but what happens when the checklist is met and nothing changes? So it's more of an error, and which, Mark, you are already saying that you're doing. And I've worked with Tracy Goldblum since I started acting many years ago. And I know she's shifted over to KMR, and I'm grateful for the work that KMR has done for me. Because I know it's about the work. But again, it's our and your responsibility. It's not for me to tell you what to do. It's for you to shift the narrative for yourself and how you would like to be treated in those situations, or how you feel that, this is unfair if I relay it to you. So, and I feel for the young woman earlier, because I've been also being biracial. There's no question about how I look when I walk into the room or what's expected of me. And I have to run faster and jump higher in order to get the job if I'm the only person of color that's in that audition. And I appreciate you getting me in there because you believe in my work. But that's basically all I have to say. It's just changing the narrative and opening up the, for yourself, the point of view, shifting the point of view. Because it only has to go a few degrees in order for everyone to be really powerfully impacted in such a positive way. And the work is going to expand. And we as artists will expand. And the industry will expand. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Renee had a comment or maybe a question as well. So Renee.
But Rosalie wanted to say something.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. We're doing a two-shot here. I'm Rosie Cooks, and one of the things I wanted to say, I agree with Malik and Delissa, I think it was, that you talk about people and what they're doing to us. It's what
If you could, I'm sorry to interrupt. If you could get closer to the microphone, that would help us a little bit.
Sit here. Yeah.
That's right.
That's better, Rosie.
I think she froze. Oh,
one of the things I was thinking about is that we walk in.
Well, we're having some technical difficulties.
And
Samantha, can you let her know we're having some difficulty hearing her?
Yes, I will.
And then we'll come back. Because I definitely want to hear. I want to hear their comments. So while we're doing that, Dominique, and then we'll shift back to Renee when we work out some technical issues. Dominique, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Hi. I'm in the commercial department, I guess. And I just wanted to speak to a couple experiences that I've had over the years where I hear a lot in auditions of white actors complaining that roles are going to diversity. And I'm sure a lot of my fellow actors have had that happen to them. I was actually at a callback in January, and I was sitting between two white male actors, and they were complaining about this over me. And I wanted to go back to what you were saying about interracial coupling, and whoever made that comment before is right, that it's usually a white man as the father and husband. So to work against that, I think, is very important. And the casting director actually came into this conversation that I was having at the callback, and she said, no, you know, 80% of roles are still cast white. And there is, and she admitted, there is a problem with interracial coupling and pushback, because a lot of the clients are actually coming from conservative states. And I don't know what conversation needs to happen. And casting sometimes feels like they're not in a position to always push back against the client commercially because it's monetary. And I just have a bigger question as to, things are better in the way that we have open ethnicity auditions. It has changed over the last 14 years, but why are 80% of the roles still cast white? And I wonder, in the theatrical realm, credits are a catch-22. So if you're white and getting cast, you get more credits, and then you get cast more. And it's hard taking a chance on actors of different races. I don't know, it's a question that I've been thinking about and wanted to throw out to you. And also coming into KMR, which I'm very grateful for, and I hear this a lot from other people where they say, oh, you must work all the time because you're ethnically ambiguous. And, you know, I did get taken on at the agency maybe because of that category. And then, you know, that tokenism does help you get in the room, but it's demeaning because I work very hard, as I'm sure a lot of my fellow actors do. And it's hard being seen in a category all the time. Yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And also that coming from other actors, like my fully Asian actor friends are always thinking that I'm passing for white, but I rarely ever go to exclusively Caucasian roles. And I don't know what other mixed race actors have feelings on that about too.
Thank you, Dominique. Appreciate that. Did we want to go back to Vernay right now, or did you want to address some of the casting concerns that Dominique?
I mean, I can certainly jump in a little bit, because it is, I have been active in the commercial world for the 33 years that I have been an agent, and have as Delisa said, it's a 400-year conversation, and it's also 400 years of bigotry that we're fighting. The simple answer, Dominique, to your question is, an advertiser doesn't want to use a face of color on their product because they're afraid their product is not going to sell. And that is, you know, that has been a fight that I have had in the commercial world for all those years, and I have fought from my little corner, as I know Alicia has, in doing what we can do. I used to, you know, and so we're fighting that systemic bigotry that comes from advertisers and product sales and all of that. And I think that's why we've been having these conversations to set this up. And Reggie said to me last night, I'm sorry, our lights go out in our offices every 22 minutes if you don't move. So I'm sorry that I just went dark. It's not dramatic lighting, I promise. You know, Reggie said to me last night in conversation, he said, we're getting hit with problems that that I'm not sure we're able to solve in our lifetime. And all we can do is make it better and try to make it incrementally better for the next and the next and the next, and maybe someday we'll eliminate it. As I've said, I don't want to be the only agency in the country with a division for performers with disabilities. I want to shut the department down. I want every agency to have people with disabilities, not just one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to do what we can as an agency to eliminate this problem, looking at our own complicity in it and how we can right these wrongs. So, Dominique, that's the basic answer to that question of why they do what they do. Not to mention the built-in fetishness of the white husband with the person or the wife of color. It'll be more acceptable if it's a white man with the black girl. Oh, it'll be more acceptable if it's a white man. Like the first thing we saw was Asian. It was the white man and an Asian wife. That was the first cracks we saw, at least in the commercial world. That was okay. We had wars. We went to war against these countries. We beat them, and now we're the conqueror, and we can have them as our wives. And that's the imperialistic bullshit that they used as the justification for it, I'm sure. And now as it's changed, and now but it still goes back to that fetish conversation that goes back.
Sure.
I do want to hear from more people, and I promise that following this, we will also reach out as an agency as well to kind of address more of these issues with people individually as well.
Right. This is only the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah, so. And I don't want to cut people off or spend, because literally we could spend an hour talking on any one of these subjects.
Absolutely. But just understand, for all of you who are here, that this is just the beginning of this process. This is the beginning of the conversation. So if you don't get your question or comment in today, certainly there'll be other opportunities to do so. I think Hank had a comment he wanted to offer. Hank. There he is. Hi, Hank. How are you?
Hi, good, very good. Great to see everyone. I miss you guys. Thank you so much, Mark and the team, for creating this platform. I certainly didn't expect it, but it's terrific that you guys are having this conversation. I suppose I wanted to be really specific in addressing something that I have encountered on sets repeatedly, and I expect to encounter it probably in the future. So I would love to know how you, as my representatives, would expect me to address it moving forward. And which is, whenever I book a job, I can count more on one hand. Every time when my first day, I go to craft services for breakfast, and the number of times that I've been stopped from eating because people assume that I'm background. And it's not that they don't, it's not that they're asking, oh, hi, I don't know who you are. Hi, what's your name? I mean, I can think of specific instances where I'm grabbing eggs and someone just yells at me, hey, you background? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And then they asked me, are you background? And I mean, there was one episode of TV where it was like very early. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And every single, as I was trying to get to my trailer to check in, everyone kept trying to send me to Holding. I go up to the location, Holding's this way. I was like, I'm not Holding, I'm a guest in this week's episode. What's your, and then, I check, I was like, hi, where can I park my car? Do you know where my trailer, we don't have trailers for you, but Holding's that way. I'm like, I'm not, and finally I get into the trailer, I check in, and I get to breakfast, and someone, you background? Very accused. I was like, no. And then I see him walk over. I see him tattletale to someone else. I see him come over here, and I was ready. And he comes over, and he was about to give me the business. He starts yelling, in the entire tent. He goes, sir, if you're background, you can't. And I was like, I am not background. I was like, if he's gonna get loud, I'm gonna get loud too, and let everybody know. Because he was trying to seem to like really put me in my place. And I was like, look, you're the 5th person to come up to me and accuse me of being background. Now I'm gonna get breakfast so I can go study my lines, if that's all right with you. A producer comes running, a PA comes running. Is there a problem there? Is there an issue? The guy was like, no, there's no problem, I was like, actually, you know, I'm a guest on this week's episode, and it seems like no one believes me when I tell them that I'm not background. I'm just trying to get a cup of coffee and I'm just trying to eat. And then the producer was like, oh, it's so early, and you know, there's a lot of new faces and we're not sure. And then someone else was like, well, you know, buddy, if I didn't have a walkie on me, they would think that I was as background too. And I was like, but I answered your question. Is there something about me that makes you think that I'm lying to you when I tell you repeatedly that I'm not background? And they were like, no, and everyone just left me alone. And at the end of my first day, I called my manager. They were like, how was it? And I told them exactly what happened. And the manager, who I no longer work with, she said, you know, Hank, we have a real problem here because you, as a guest, your reputation is at stake. And I hope casting doesn't call me to complain about this incident. Tomorrow when you go to set, make sure you have your call sheet in your back pocket. And that way, if somebody asks you if you're background, you can just pull out your sheet and say, nope, that's me, I'm right here. She was like, don't forget, PAs, they earn $100 a day. They're very stressful. And I was like, and you know, I don't know if what she told me was right or wrong, but I will say that I felt like this is just something I'm gonna have to continue to do and prepare and fend for myself. I mean, I'm telling you, this has happened on 6-7 shows.
Yeah.
The example that I gave you was probably the most confrontational. Oh, and by the way, the rest of the week they treated me like a king. So I guess it pays to stand up for yourself, because it was first class service the rest of that week. I guess word got around. But so I would love to know from the team, you know, had I called KMR and said this is what had happened that day, how would you guys as an agency, from your position, what would you have told me to do? Was I wrong to confront that situation? Tell me how you think it could have been better.
And Hank, I thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to also broaden that just a little bit in terms of on-set incidents to the issue of hair and makeup for people of color, because there are also some issues in terms of hair and makeup being available for the specific needs of performers of color. So in general, on-set incidents like the one Hank described, and anything that would make it uncomfortable for a performer of color, what's the first step? And then how would you handle that as an agent?
I think that anytime you are confronted with an incident that is making you feel uncomfortable, you need to call your agent. And if I've heard the horror stories of, well, just deal with it, and you don't want to make waves. I would certainly hope that nobody who works for us would answer you in that way, and will pick up that phone and make that phone call for you. And I'm going to take this opportunity also to address something. This agency is going to stay open, its lights are going to stay on, and I don't need any job to keep us open. There's been a few comments that we got from people, and one actually I heard from a discussion that somebody else had. We are never going to make a decision based on money. We are never going to if you are being treated poorly and you want to leave the biggest hit on television because they are treating you badly, you have the support of KMR 100%. We're never going to ask you or push you to make any decision, based on money, based on what a relationship. Again, we can stay open if any casting decides they don't want to work with us because we're standing up for our clients. I think we're going to be in a different climate when we come out of this, by the way. I think these conversations are going to be easier to have because people are going to be more aware that this is part of what is human and normal in the way that we should treat people. Mm-hmm. So I think that to pick up the phone and go, I have a client on set. He's a guest star on the episode. He's a whatever. He keeps being treated like an extra. can you talk to your ADs and get them to either pass out a sheet with photos on it, whatever you need to do so that people recognize who your thing is and try to educate. You know, I was taught, I also teach a class at UCLA, and we went through a whole training on microaggressions. And they said that the biggest problem with microaggression is when it keeps happening to you, that at a certain point you stop answering it because you get tired of it happening over and over and over. And that maybe as an ally, you should step forward. So the young Asian girl in the class who's from San Gabriel Valley, but people keep saying, well, where are you from? Because she's Asian. And she's from California, but you think she's from some country, then maybe you should go, you know, why would you ask that question? Why are you asking her where she's from, but you didn't ask anybody else where they were from? So as allies, we need to step up and have those conversations for the people that are experiencing that aggression, as was happening to Hank, I think. But you going back to your hair and makeup question, is that something we should be asking for in our deals? Should we be saying to people, you know, you can actually do this maybe by even just a show of actual, you know, physical hands, because we have the pictures. I mean, should we be asking for hair and makeup people that know what they're doing with black skin, with black hair? You know? Yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of hands, which I expected I would see. You know, it's something that, again, as a person with white privilege, would never occur to me until I'm told.
So it sounds like there are two things that maybe going forward we can be asked for, that maybe photos on the call sheet so that they know who their guest stars are, so that the guest star doesn't have to keep repeatedly telling them, I'm a guest star on your program. Maybe just photos on the call sheet would help that. And yeah, maybe specific deal points. You know, I have a woman of color coming to your show. Are you going to have somebody there who knows what they're doing in terms of her hair and makeup? I think maybe those are things that can be addressed on the deal side of things. I see Hank has a comment. Hank, oh, sorry. Kendall. I like you so much, Hank. I want to hear from you talk.
Hi, I'm Kendall.
Oh, hey, brother. How are you?
All right, I'm in the commercial department. I've been with KMR about a year. I've been looking forward to this meeting. I hope things change. I'm not as optimistic as a lot of people are. I've been around for a while. I saw what happened in 1968, okay, after Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. I saw what happened after Rodney King, you know, and, you know, we inch forward and then we take 2 steps back as a country. In fact, I went out and marched a little bit because I was afraid of COVID-19. And so I marched a little bit and I encountered racism on the march. You know, I saw a girl handing out water bottles and she was white. And I walked up to her with my dog and I said, are you handing out water? And she said, yes. And I reached for a bottle of water and she withdrew her hand. And I said, but you're handing out water, right? And she said, yes. I said, well, may I have a bottle of water? She went, oh, yeah, sure. And she handed me the water. I mean, that's one of those things that you know when it happens to you, especially if you're black. You know when it's racism, you know. And I just wonder how many of these people marching are not out there because they want their Instagram moment. You know what I mean? And I know that sounds jaded, but this is my experience when I was on a march last week or week before.
Sure.
The other thing I want to mention is that I think is very important is several years ago, you know, racism in this industry doesn't always happen on the job or in an audition. And I've experienced it in auditions. But I ran into a casting director in Ralph's one time, and it was a crowded Saturday night. And everybody's in there and everybody's feeling festive. And I was talking to another customer in line, and behind me was a casting director whom I knew. I didn't know her well, but I did know her, and I'd auditioned for her. And I got my groceries, and I walked a couple of aisles over, and I had to stop and rearrange my bag so I could carry them out to my car. And I heard her say, oh yeah, he's an actor, all right. He's not an actor. He's just another nigger. Now I'm telling you like that, and I'm using the language because I want you to hear it exactly the way I heard it. Okay. And that's the way it affected me for a long time. And I did not know what to do about it because it wasn't in an audition. It wasn't on the job. It was a casting director who a lot of people knew. And I heard what she said. I don't know what I did to this woman. I don't know why she didn't like me. But, you know, I mean, what do you do with that? You know, I did call CSA. And I didn't leave a name, but for some reason I had to call back. And then I ran into her again. This is a few weeks later. And she says to me, I know you heard what I said, but if you say anything, I will sue you. And I will come up with witnesses to say that you're lying. So I never did anything about it. You know, I did tell my theatrical agent, and he was stunned, but he was like, just shine it on. But you don't want to shine it on. You get tired of shining it on. You know, after 58 years of shining it on, you know, at some point you want to do something about it. I mean, so what would you suggest? That's not on the job. That's not in an audition. What should we do if we encounter something like that? With, you know, how could KMR help with something like that? Do you have any suggestions?
I will tell you that there's nothing I can do to change her racist attitude, but what I can do is stop working with that casting director, and I would. Plain and simple. And if anybody asked me why or wherefore, or a client came to me and said, well, I need to leave because you're not working with so-and-so, I would tell them why I don't work with so-and-so. And if she wants to sue me, that's fine. I've got deeper pockets than you do. You know, I mean, I'll take that. You know, it's, you know, again, that's basic human dignity. And I wouldn't tolerate a racist on my staff. I won't tolerate you going and being put in a room with a racist. I mean, that's just overt racist. I mean, I can't, you know, I say racist, I don't know what somebody is, but in that situation, the game's over for me. That's my view. And anybody who worked for me who would feel differently wouldn't work for me anymore.
And I think the more
he's still talking. Can we unmute Kendall again?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm going to finish. I only bring it up because this is something that has bothered me for years.
Yeah.
And there, you know, because what can you do about that? You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things that just, it can, no, it's just, you know, you can lose sleep over it.
Sure.
So,
but
yeah.
I think the more people in the industry who would know about it, the more agents who would be aware of that, I think there could be a change. The more people know about that kind of behavior, even if it's not on the job.
Right.
That's an industry professional treating another industry professional with incredible disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that should be voiced.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amir. Amir.
What's up, y'all? So much I want to say, but I'm going to try and keep it super brief. First of all, I'm just incredibly moved that this is happening at all. Like, just when people in the power structure who are white open up space and say, I want to listen, that alone is huge. So I just want to thank everyone at KMR for opening this up. So two things regarding what Dominique was saying about how, you know, every single actor of color has heard white actors say, well, I didn't get it because they went ethnic, right? And the dynamic that sets up between us is so painful and so hurtful. And so what I wanted to say to all the agents is, whenever you get the feedback that your white client didn't get something because they went ethnic, even though in the grand scheme of things, you may see that as like, oh, that's about equity. That's a positive thing. Please don't pass that feedback on to your white clients because they don't hear it the same way, right? They hear it as a person of color stole my job. And that perpetuates that sense of competition between actors of color and white actors. And there's just no reason for that. And then the other thing I just wanted to ask was, I'm actually really impressed that KMR staff is 25% non-white. Just anecdotally, that feels higher than most anywhere else I've seen in the agenting world, and it's actually a higher percentage than in the U.S. in general. So, great job. Frankly, I can't believe that's an accident. So, what I'd love KMR to, if not tell us here, at least think about, what are y'all doing to get so many people of color onto your staff? And I understand that they haven't risen to the ranks of partner or anything yet, but what are you doing to make your space welcome to people of color in a way that other agencies aren't? And can you share that with other agencies, maybe?
I can only share my perspective, which is that I interview people for the job regardless of who they are or what they are. And I try to hire the best people that are available. You know, I was actually very saddened. We actually lost 2 employees last year, two Black women who had other dreams besides agenting. And I was actually very disappointed about that, because I thought they were both fantastic and are going to do great in their chosen areas, and agenting wasn't it. As far as the culture question, you know, Jabari, do you want to jump in and address that? It's not. I don't know how to voice it. Can we unmute Jabari?
Where's Jabari?
Hi.
Hey, there he is.
Hey, what? I'm sorry. What was the second part of the where?
Just about the climate. I'm here to ask about, you know, what is the climate that fosters employees of color, so many employees of color.
Well, I mean, I definitely think from the 2 years that I've been at KMR, I have seen, you know, the constant deliberation and what goes into hiring people, and also like the processes of like how we sign people as well. So then again, I've only been here for 2 years, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I can speak for the entire culture, but I can say as far as working with Mark for the 2 years and the company, it's definitely something where I know it's actively being done and it's, you know, being thought about. So do we have a long way to go? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We have a long way to go, but our progress is being made. Absolutely.
Important to point out that this conversation is not only happening on the client level, it's happening on the agent level, it's happening on the casting director level. This is a multi-level conversation, and there are multiple steps that need to happen on multiple levels of the industry. Can we get from Jed? I think Jed had a comment.
I think Jed wanted to share.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's Jed Abrams, who runs our New York office.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. It was more when we were speaking about not feeling comfortable to speak up when something was occurring, and I've had a lot of conversations with clients in the recent weeks, and have discovered that even though I felt like I created a dynamic in a relationship where one could come to me and speak to me about anything, and I've tried certainly very hard to do that, I learned that there were instances where, not necessarily because of me, but because of the business, because out of fear, out of not wanting to rock the boat. I hear this expression a lot, and I feel like if there's anything that we can take away from this conversation and this meeting, is that moving forward, there's a new chapter. I am determined for that dynamic to change. I am determined for, whether it's the conversation in the negotiation about the hair and makeup, that's no longer some special request, that just becomes standard as part of what we do, when we're negotiating, for an actor of color, or that if there is an incident that is happening on a set or on a stage, that client reaches out to us, and that we, without fear and without concern of relationships, that we speak up about it. And I feel like that's all we can do moving forward. I think it's all about moving forward. It's not about what the past as much. And so I just wanted to to say that I, in my discussions, and I know my team, and I know the hearts and the minds of this company, and we are committed to, to creating that space so people know, even it doesn't matter how important the job is, doesn't matter how fancy the casting director, that we can have a frank conversation and we can come up with a way to address it together.
Thank you for that, Jeff. Appreciate that. And it's good to know that the entire company is making that commitment. I think that's important for us to hear that. Can we hear from Keisha Lewis? I know Keisha wanted to address some issues as well.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Keisha, how are you?
Hi everyone. This is great, as has been said repeatedly. I'm very grateful to be a part of a team that recognizes the moment and the necessity of this kind of a forum. And I just wanted to share a couple of things. One thing to my fellow clients, and then secondly to all of my agents, my representation. And I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget anything, so forgive me. First, I'll say to my fellow clients that this is a moment for all of us to be proactive in our speech, to no longer, with the agency that represents us, that gets a piece of our check, that we no longer not tell them what's going on. Out of whatever reason that we do that, we need to stop that. And we're at the time now, we're there, which Mark already said. They're listening, they're trying to understand, and they want to be a part of the solution. So let's not get weary in continuing to do well. We will be rewarded if we don't allow our anger and frustration to get the best of us, and we don't give up. Allow your faith to rise in the knowledge that goodness always triumphs over evil, always. Yes. It may take longer than we want it to, but it will come. And to the agents, I would like to say, we have heard a lot in the media about this wonderful book, White Fragility. There's also a second book, if you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo for you to read, and Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad, Me and White Supremacy. And what these books do is it helps white people take action and dismantle the privilege within yourself so you can stop, often unconsciously, inflicting damage on people of color and help other white people to do better too. There is a racial stamina that is required to challenge a racist status quo. Black people already have it. We've been training for this marathon since birth, and our muscles are big and strong. You all, as our representation, have to get in the gym and catch up. And just like training your physical body takes persistence, patience, and a refusal to stop until you reach your goal, so too will this. It will require you to be uncomfortable a lot of the time. So don't get afraid and annoyed by the discomfort. It won't kill you. Work on strengthening your fragility by listening, then studying, then taking action. Fight for us. Challenge your colleagues in casting for us. If you believe in us like you say you do, then continue to demonstrate that belief with action. By avoiding the discomfort, the status quo is protected. And I would challenge you lastly that after you've read and dissected your own personal fragility, that you come together and have another group forum with people of color as your moderators and teachers to help. No longer is it acceptable to discuss amongst yourselves alone and congratulate yourselves on your efforts. We've all done that. Doing that type of exclusion is part of the problem. Stay inclusive forever, period. We didn't get here in the last few weeks since George Floyd was murdered. It's a lifelong work. And spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, we all have to prep for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Keisha.
Thanks, Keisha.
I think we have time for a few more a few more client comments. So Natalie's, I see that she's been waiting for a while.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. My name is Natalie Jimenez. I'm with the commercial department at KMR. Woo woo. I wanted to talk about the idea of microaggressions. A lot of the things that we see or that we understand as racist or as exclusive aren't necessarily so blatant. So something that happened to me was with my theatrical agent, but I think it's a great example of this, is I got sent a breakdown for a pilot this year, and there was an ensemble cast of 4 characters. And the first 3 characters had just the name of the character, age, and personality description. The 4th character had the name, age, and then I feel like they went through a census thing and they just like picked everything that was non-white. So Latinx, Pacific Islander, Asian, African American, like just listed one next to the other, right? And that hurt me so much. And there's a couple of reasons why. First, if you're going to designate a label for one of the characters, do it for all. Even if you want white actors, then say Caucasian, 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 other. You know what I mean? Because it feels like, it just feels so like this is the only thing you can do. This is the only thing we want you for. And also, it also, I feel like says a lot of like, oh, this is obviously a white writer, because there's a big difference between what an African-American actor is going to bring to a character versus what an Asian actor with maybe like an Asian history in their family, things like that, or what I'm going to bring as like a person who's bilingual to a character, right? So if you don't know what you want, write all ethnicities or write open, right? But if you do, write it. I mean, that's how I feel. Obviously, I don't know if this is a solution. I don't know what it is, but I definitely felt like labeled, and I felt like, so can I audition for these other characters or can I not, since they weren't specific about it? And it just feels like everything that's not specified as ethnic is white. And anything that's not specified as ethnic is normal, because it's not even white, it's just not named, right? So I feel like first, take responsibility. If you want these characters to be white, then say it. Like, I would love it. I would love it to read Caucasian, Caucasian. That's what you want, great. That's what the makeup of this ensemble is gonna look like, but like take responsibility for that. And then also, I feel like we have to be very careful with just creating this other. I feel like that's what Amir was talking about, of the difference between white actors and ethnic, right? Then we're all grouped together as this ethnic group. And I feel like what we're learning to do is to celebrate our differences, right? So that's one of the ways that I feel attacked a little sometimes in the industry, and it's how things are written out or how things are labeled and just what they are looking for. I don't know what agents can do about that. I don't know who's writing these things. I don't know if casting directors can get more involved with these things, but that's like a microaggression that for me can be very, or has been very limiting in my experience.
Sure. Thank you, Natalie. And along those same lines, I think we should also probably mention sometimes the demands of an actor of color to be more ethnic in the role, to use ethnic vernacular. Is that something also that we should be addressing with our agents? Is that something that we can even, is that something we can address? Is that again on a different level? Is that a casting level, a writing level? How do we handle those concerns as well?
Yeah, I mean that's a question, and I think with the question we do have, I mean, it's hard. There's so many people lined up with comments, and so maybe I'm gonna have to reach out individually about breakdowns and how that information comes across. They are generally written by a casting director, and then it goes to a network or a studio for approval. Occasionally, breakdown writes them themselves. It's on the film and TV side. I'm not sure how it happens on the theater side. Maybe the author. I'm not sure. But and again, maybe something that Alicia can address with the ATA, and therefore then with the unions, to talk about those breakdown situations. But in going back, really quickly, and I'm gonna corrupt a phrase that Peter and Bobby Fairley used, and Gail, I think you know where I'm going with this. But Peter or Bobby Fairley, one of them said, no writer ever wrote a script that said the boss walks into a room, he is not in a wheelchair. The girl brings coffee into the room, she does not have Down syndrome. He didn't write that. And I've been utilizing it lately and changing it now to the way we need to think every day about casting and how we have to think about every breakdown. It says it's a lawyer, and we can't be the person just putting a list of white people together because that's what we think they want. It doesn't say, the lawyer, the judge, he is not black. The waitress, she is not Asian. It doesn't say that. And so that's the way that has to be read, I think.
So I think we've had a great discussion. I think maybe one more comment, and then, like I said, this is the beginning of a much longer conversation. And certainly, if you have other comments or questions, feel free to email them to KMR. I'm sure that there'll be other opportunities to have these kinds of town halls in the future. And if there's a question or comment that wasn't addressed, please don't be silent about your comments and your questions. Send them in so that at least people can be aware and can start thinking about these issues. Let me get one more comment from Valencia. Yeah.
Well, one sec, Reggie, because I think that actually Harold Augenstein wanted to speak.
Oh.
Harold's head of our theatrical department in Los Angeles.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hey.
All right, I'm unmuted. Woo, unmuted. I just want to make it very clear to all the clients that you should never, ever be afraid to call us up about any issue. Kendall, Hank, I'm shocked at what you went through. And Kendall, I would love to talk to you about that in the future. I would have gone to the public forum in that. I would have called my friend at the Hollywood Reporter. I would have called somebody at Deadline, and we would have outed this casting director. That is absolutely unacceptable behavior. I just want to tell you, I'm not fragile. I'm a boat rocker. And I don't have a problem calling people out or creating conflict or, defending, counseling, helping out our clients. And I find that behavior appalling. If you would have called me up with that, we would have not only done something to that casting director, but we absolutely would have made that behavior public. And as far as going and 6 people asking you if you're an extra, immediately call me. We'll walk off that set. Stuff like that is unacceptable behavior. And I just want to make it that we're all in everybody's corner here. And I have no problem rocking the boat. And if you've known me, I've been doing this for close to 25 years. I don't know if that's a reputation I have or not, but at the end of the day, we represent you. We want you to have fairness, dignity, and prosperity.
Fantastic.
And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Can we hear a couple more comments? One from Valencia, please. Where's Valencia?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi.
Awesome. I'm loving this. This is great. I have just joined KMR about a year ago, and I'm really thankful for this opportunity to have real, frank discussion. There's so much that I could comment on because we just talked about so many things, but I do want to talk about, I just want to piggyback on what Keisha was saying, and that is, frankly, we are tired. We as actors of color, we as Black people in this society are just tired of the microaggressions, of the added responsibilities. We talked about hair and makeup. I show up to every set with my hair done because I don't trust that whoever is on that set is going to do my hair in the way that represents me the best way. And film is forever. So, I was thrilled. I shot a census commercial a couple of months ago, and the key makeup, the key hair, and the head of wardrobe were all people of color. And I have been doing this for a long time. Tracy Goldblum and Jessica know me for years, and they are the reason why I am here. And that is the first time. I mean, I literally was in tears on that set because I finally saw a representation of me backstage. I mean, it was awesome. You know, we talk about microaggressions and this code that we as color of actors of color have. A couple of years ago, and I don't even remember if I told Jessica this or Tracy this, but I went into an audition. It was myself and 2 other male actors of color. It was a voiceover. I think it was for Coke, or it was a fast food thing. We go in, we read our thing, and the casting director says, "Oh, that was great. That was great. But can you take that a little bit further uptown?" Now, every actor of color on this call knows exactly what that means. And what astounded me is, A, the casting director thought it was funny when it was racist and disrespectful. And the 3 of us actors looked at each other, and without saying a word, we knew exactly what she meant. We also knew that at that moment, we could not call her out because none of us would have gotten the job. So you always put in a position where, do I say something or do I lose the gig? You know, and so having this frank conversation with you lets us know that there is hope. But as Keisha said, you have to do your due diligence, because we are tired and we need you to represent us the way we deserve to be represented. But you need to hear these stories that we live with all the time,
right, but
that you are not aware of. This last one, and then I'm gonna go, because as I said, I've been doing this for so long. I could be here for another 3 hours talking about stories.
I'll sit here with you.
You know, exactly, you know, but I shot, and I'm going to call names. I shot a Publix commercial in Tampa about 10 years ago. They flew me down. You know, I was the only one on set, the only actor of color on set, the principal in the commercial. And I always ask for a call sheet, because I want to know, you know, who's on the set. I asked for this call sheet the day I got there, during the wardrobe, the fitting. "Oh, we'll get it to you, we'll get it to you." Next day I get on the set, "Where's the call sheet?" "Oh, we're gonna get it. Finally, I was like, where is the director? Why can't I get a call sheet? So I hear from one of the ADs, and they say, "Well, you know, the production coordinator doesn't want you to have a call sheet because the director is a famous director." And I said, "Hold up, I'm the principal, you hired me. So my name is on the call sheet. Everybody on this set can have my information, but I can't have the same privilege? I don't understand that. I've never been on a set where I didn't get a call sheet." So I go and address the production manager, and her name was Heidi. I remember this like it was yesterday. And I say, "Heidi, can I have a call sheet?" And she does not answer me. She sits there as if she does not hear me. And I said, "Heidi, hi, my name is Valencia. Can I have the call sheet?" She ignored me for about 10 minutes. And finally, I had to get in her face. And I said, "Let me tell you something. I have been doing this for a long time. I will call SAG, but I want a call sheet." And she looked at me and threw it at me. And as I was walking away, I heard her call me bitch. I did my job. I reported it to SAG, but I have never been hired by that production company since. Now, this is something that we deal with all the time. And we just deal with it because we need to get the job done. But these are stories that you need to know happen to us on a regular basis. And I'm just thankful that now we have a forum where we can tell you what our experiences are, because you will not be able to represent us the way we deserve to be represented if you are not aware of these stories.
No, we appreciate it.
You know, so.
And just so you know,
appreciate it.
a comment came in from a client, commercial client out here in Los Angeles that said, I know Heidi from Tampa, same thing happened to me.
Boom, shakalaka.
There you go.
Right. And so, and also just know that however you choose to handle that situation, if it's, okay, I'll just deal with it and do the job and then report, or no, I'm walking off this job, just know that, as has been expressed, your agents have your back. Your agents have your back however you want to handle it. And I hear you. We deal with this a lot. And sometimes you say, you know what, I'm just going to deal with it and do the job and move on. Or, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, and I'm going to leave this job. And just know that whatever you decide, you have an agency that has committed themselves to backing you up.
And today's forum is a confirmation of that. And again, we thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Valencia. Thank you for that. Can we circle back to Vernay? I know Vernay had.
Vernay and Rosie, are you still there?
But I think we can. Work things out.
We're still here.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I've been with the agency since it was Jack Wormser. So,
whoa.
Yes. 15 years, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, but and I have been on so many calls, and I know it's true. They say a white character, but I'm the only Black one there, and I know that it's my agents that are doing that. So I appreciate that. And I've dealt with racism all through my career, but being from New York and from Brooklyn, I deal with it right there. You know what I mean? And I try to educate as I'm doing it. And I think it all comes from your heart. You know, you have to do it on what the girl was saying. We have to get back to our own consciousness. And I have to appeal to these people's consciousness to let them know that what they're doing is wrong. And I think that if we handle it that way, and not as a victim, but just as a teacher, you know, I'm not a victim, but because I know what I'm doing. I've been in the business 50-something years, you know, but listen to me and just deal with me. I have called a white man the N-word because he was acting like one. And we became friends after that, you know, but I think these conversations are important, and I thank God that everybody's listening now, and they want to change, seemingly. And I know it's going to take some time because it's been 400 and something years that this has been going on like this. And the casting directors don't have as much power as the advertising agencies. You know, it comes from way up there. It's systemic. It's in the fabric of our nation. And we have to shake that blanket out, honey, and let some air and some light in and make some changes in our own hearts.
I think we have to unravel
I
it.
think also we have to, yeah, we have to unravel it, but we have to continuously look in the mirror. You know, again, we go through this stuff on a daily basis for centuries and centuries. We're just being given permission to feel what we feel. You know, if I was who they say I am, you all would be dead. All white people would be dead.
Right.
We are tired of justifying our humanity to people who are continuously being inhumane to us. We mean nothing. We're less than animals. The other thing is, I went on an audition some while back for the description was Oprah Winfrey on her show. The next one was Oprah Winfrey in The Color Purple. The other one was A Pretty Oprah Winfrey. So what that does to my person, if I don't know who I am, is very, very destructive. When we see so many white people all the time on the television, we do use those products. In fact, we probably use them more. So it's incumbent upon us to continue to educate, but it's not my responsibility. It's your responsibility to look in the mirror and say, I have been privileged all my life. I have to be sensitized to other people. We don't have time to teach. I'm tired of teaching, you know?
Well, I'm not.
But
But you are.
I'm not.
You know,
That's just what we have to do.
I say it, but I continue to do
Look,
it.
she works for Watchtowers Arts Festival. She's the
I know
director of the
I
Watchtowers
know she
Arts.
does.
So she's in there all the time, and
Yeah,
she's
I'm
teaching
having
all
these
the
same
time.
conversations with the Department of Cultural Affairs at this moment.
Right.
So, you know, we're deeply entrenched in this stuff, but I want to say thank you, KMR, for giving us this opportunity to share some of our feelings about how we're treated. And you haven't even touched the surface yet of the humiliation and the indignation. You know, we're just constantly privy to this kind of stuff. But thank you, and we look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much, Rosie. Renee.
Thank you so much for that. That was powerful. Thank you. Let's get a comment from Sharia. Just patiently waiting.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Taria. I'm with the New York office. And I think a lot of people have been saying a lot of great things, and we are running out of time. But what I want to say is very specific to the agents. I want to talk about casting and breakdowns. I mainly do theater in New York City, but I'm breaking into TV, and I see these breakdowns all the time. And what is very bothersome to me, a little bit like what Natalie's was saying, what's very bothersome to me is when these people will put down the breakdown and they'll say like 40-year-old woman, sidekick, funny, sassy, which is the word that is horrible, but they'll say sassy, and then they'll say Leslie Jones type. And then I'll get submitted for that. I am nothing like that. And it is frustrating if my agents who know me submit me for it because, not because they don't know who I am. I don't want to say that because I'm very pleased with them, but because that's all that we have. Like there's either a Wanda Sykes type if she's the lesbian, or there's a Leslie Jones type if she's loud. And I think that what is frustrating to me and what I want KMR to do, I want my agents to do, is if they see something that says 40s, funny, sidekick, sassy, Deborah Messing type, submit me for that, because that's who I am. Amy Schumer type, that's the kind of comedy that I like to do. And I don't want to be pigeonholed into something just because it's Black. And so there are so many conversations that need to be had, but what I specifically want to know from my agents is, will you fight for me in that way? Will you go above and beyond to challenge these people who have placed us in these pigeonholes? Because there are conversations that need to be had, but they need to be had with producers. And that's not who we're talking to right now. We're talking to the agents. So I want to know if that's something you're willing to do, or if you think that it will rock the boat. And for between you and these casting people, because when I would bring up something like that, or when I would express that in sort of a casual way, I was met with, you know, well, this is how TV is, and this is a character thing, or this is a character actor thing. And me, because I'm very trusting, I'm like, well, I'm a theater person. I've been doing that for 20 years. Maybe I don't know so much about the TV world, but I want to ask, take to task, challenge, demand some sort of explanation for that. And I want to know that maybe there needs to be something where agents reevaluate their clients. Like maybe we need 15-minute little conversations like, hey, we've been together for 10 years, or we've been together for 20 years. You might have changed. You might have had new life experiences that might, you know, lead you into a different way. Let's sit down and discuss what TV shows are on there right now that you see yourself doing. Because, you know, that conversation and that answer is different from me 10 years ago than it is now. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Jed, do you want to jump in there, or do you want me to answer?
As the representative of Taria for over a decade.
What?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying in terms of the time frame. Yeah, I think that, you know, I've actually gotten into it with casting in the last couple of weeks, specifically about this, to say, well, okay, now, you know, we try to do our. I believe that I've absolutely, when I've seen roles for a man, told them how it could be a woman. I absolutely know of instances where I have challenged whether it's race, gender, sexuality. That said, I think moving forward, from what I understand, even with casting, that there's going to be more willingness to have that conversation, and I'm excited about that. Where, because I even specifically said, we try to follow our directions. You say you're looking for X, Y, and Z, and if we call and say, even though you said X, Y, and Z, it's really M. They can say we're wasting their time. But I use that as an example, and I got the sense that they were like, just do it, and I was like, great, because I can't wait to do it, and I will do it, and I'm good at it, and let's go. So I think that, yes, I think that there's certainly I think the really interesting thing that Taria said about was the boxing of going like, yeah, it's sad that they do limit it to such specific things. Of course, you're not a Leslie Jones, but we shoot wide nets to generate opportunities. So I think that shining a light on a role that was maybe pre-visioned to be Caucasian, but all the other sensibilities are representative of the specific client, that is absolutely a time to go in there and say, let me tell you how we can change another way to look at this, or to rethink, reimagine what this role could be, and this is the actress that can change your mind. So I'm certainly excited to have more of those opportunities. I'm excited that the climate has changed, or hopefully has changed, where there is much more of a willingness to break previous rules that have been set, and hopefully that will lead to more opportunities.
I think Jabari also wanted to weigh in on that particular topic too.
I just want to quickly add that everything Jed said was correct. I know for sure for us in LA Theatrical, we submit very broadly. Like, as soon as the role says Black, African American, we're going to submit all clients. Now, going forward, of course, we want to make sure if a client says they don't feel comfortable with that, we tell clients before they come in to meet with us. It's always an ongoing discussion. If you want to pass, that's up to you. You should definitely pass, and we're going to respect that ability. Also, now going forward, if you want to tell us this is a reason why you're passing, we are absolutely willing to bring that to casting and to the producers and let them know this is why you're passing and this is the reason why. But at the end of the day, it's definitely something where we submit very broadly. Does it make it right that these roles only have 1 or 2 descriptions? Absolutely not. And that's what we definitely need to get away from. You know what I mean? But also at the same time, we just don't want to ever have you guys lose out on any opportunities. But again, going forward, it definitely has to be something where if you say you're uncomfortable with this, I'm happy. I know I've stated this several times with clients. I will bring this back to casting, producer, whoever I need to let them know why this person's passing.
Do we want to get a brief follow-up from Maria? Okay.
Yes, I just want something Jabari said, and I don't know if you were misspeaking or if you do this. You said even if it says African American, you submit everybody, or even if it says person of color. Do you submit white people? Like when you say you're casting a white net, do you submit white people for roles that are not specifically deemed white? Because it ain't a lot for us. So if I'm fighting against,
he is vigorously saying no. He doesn't. That's not what he does.
Okay.
And vigorously gesticulating.
Yes, misspoke. Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Thank you, Jabari.
Absolutely not. I definitely
You should have seen his breakdown for the remake of Roots. It was a mess.
Oh gosh, Mark. But the one last thing I wanted to say to you when you were talking about hiring people and how you wanted to change the face of how your office looked like when you worked out, and you said when you sit down you really want to hire people who are the best person for the job. But I just challenge you to sometimes hire the people who won't get the opportunity to come into the door. So we were talking about this with my theater job about stagehands and people of color aren't necessarily represented in the technical side of the theater world, but that's because it's an old boys club, and the people who are indoctrinated, that's the people who get the jobs. And so maybe this could be an opportunity for somebody who doesn't have a big resume but is a person of color and needs to get their foot in the door.
And let me amend that. And I mean, I'm not going to make them come online, but the people who deal with my hiring process, if I come out of a room and there are 3 choices and one of them is a person of color, that's the one I want. And I will tell them, I said, if those are your choices, those are my choices, that's the one. Or I'll see them interviewing somebody and say, are they good? Because that's the person I want. I've always wanted more. Look, I'm a foster parent. I've had 13 babies in 2.5 years of every color under the rainbow.
I know.
So for me, I can't tell you the rigmarole I went through in finding a school for my child so that he was not surrounded by white faces. I grew up in the public school system in Los Angeles as the Bloods and the Crips were forming. You know, I got to grow up in a culture that wasn't all white. You know, there was half middle class Jewish kids, and there were half kids that were being bused from 4 in the morning from Compton and South Central to our high school. You know, and that's I want that to be a part of every day, that we see all faces and all colors, all religions, all sexual orientations. You know, that's part of that. So we are going to have to wrap it up. Thank you, Taria. And 40s, come on, I still take you down to 30s. But anyway, we do need to wrap it up. Reggie, thank you so much for guiding us through this.
Thank you.
If your question or something wasn't answered, please send it to us at info@kmrtalent.com. Even if you put something into the comments, if you could do that again and send it to us, that way it would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Please know that we are also very tied both to the ATA and to the Screen Actors Guild, and we can get pretty high up into the guild. If you've got something that really needs to be addressed, please bring it to us. Really, I cannot reiterate enough. If we don't know it's happening, we can't fix it, and that's an individual incident.
Right.
As far as our own work, we're all going to do our own work, and that's why I didn't want this to be a history lesson in racism. That's our job to go do that. As Rosie so eloquently put it, you don't need to teach that. That's our job to go out and get that information and learn it. It's not your job to teach us.
Just one last thing, Mark. I also wanted to give a special thanks to Ashley for being our interpreter.
Yes, who's already now worked 45 minutes more than she thought she was going to work. I'm so sorry, Ashley.
Thank you.
The difficult conversations are what make us closer. Please understand that. It doesn't make us farther apart. It doesn't. It's not something to be afraid of. It is not something that will affect your relationship with us. It will only make us fight for you that much harder. That's the kind of people we try to be at KMR. So please know that. And please know that money is not a concern with us. Don't be afraid to rock that boat. Don't be afraid to turn down a job. Don't be afraid to turn down an audition because you are not treated well by that person. So please know our emails are open, our phones are on. Please call us. Also, special thank you to Sam Sherry, who's been juggling all of this today. I really appreciate it and putting all this together. I do really appreciate it. But mostly thank you guys for being willing to come and be willing to talk to us. I know there have been a lot of these conversations going on. I know that your friends have been calling you, your coworkers have been calling you, your family has been calling you, and these are conversations you have been having, and we're asking you to have another one, and we're going to keep asking you to have them, and I do appreciate it, and I appreciate you all coming on here, and we held on to a great portion. There was over 400. There's still 320 as we sign off. So thank you guys so much, and you will be hearing from us more on this subject. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Well.